Hello, hello, and welcome. Welcome to hard read, soft read. Which one should I choose? Many oboe players, when they're purchasing their reeds, they see these labels, hard, soft, medium soft, and they're puzzled. Which ones should they choose? If they're just starting their journey, is it better to start soft? Is it better to start hard? It is really confusing. They may also find that they buy two soft reeds and they both feel different. So what's going on with that? It's easy to feel puzzled about those labels, and today I'm going to unpack how to understand them. My name is Erin Brophy. I am the principal oboe player of the Saskatoon Symphony and a sessional lecturer at the University of Saskatchewan. Thank you for joining me today. The reason I am doing these videos and live presentations has a lot to do with how I got started on the oboe and where I got started on the oboe. I'm from northern Canada. I grew up in a very remote place, a very beautiful place, until I started to play the oboe. And that's when it started to feel really remote because I did not have access to good information. I did not have access to functioning reeds, and I did not have access to a functioning instrument. I certainly did not have access to a community of oboe players. And so that community of oboe players couldn't provide me the information I needed. Like, do I need a soft reed? Do I need a hard reed? I'm looking in this catalog and I don't know what it means. Because I didn't have access to this information, I really struggled. And there were many times in my journey as an oboe player that I almost gave up because it just felt too hard and really isolating. And like there was a veil and I just needed to get through that veil and I would have access to this information. I did eventually find that access once I started driving almost 600 kilometers for oboe lessons, and that really changed my life. And if you fast forward now, I started those lessons 35 years ago now, but I've been making my living as an oboe player for 25 years, and I feel really, really blessed that I play the oboe, and I love teaching the instrument, and I love playing the instrument. And now that I help others on their journey, I reflect that it just does not have to be that hard. Because I've seen what happens when you get access to good information. I've seen what happens when you get access to a community. An oboe player flourishes. And, this is an unusual instrument. There's not a lot of good information out there. And that's why I'm doing these presentations. It's because I don't want you to have to suffer the way that I did. I love this internet thing. And getting this good information out there in the world is my mission. It's also why I created a program called the Obop Paath, which is a group online program that uses a masterclass, one-on-one feedback, and a personalized plan to enable an oboist to fit the oboe into their busy lives. With the group online masterclass, an oboe player joins a community of like-minded oboists all looking to improve. This helps with accountability and inspiration to practice, and a lot of lovely support. With the personalized feedback, an oboe player goes to each practice session knowing exactly what they're going to practice. And so they start to see the results of the fruits of their labor. And with a customized plan, playing the oboe is able to fit into their busy life. It is possible to improve on the instrument and do all the other things too. I love the Obop Paath program. So let's get to it. Hard reed versus soft reed. Which one should I use? So I remember being very puzzled by this. When I was a new oboe player, because I was ordering reeds from a catalog. I imagine now you order reeds from the internet or you go down to your local music store and they have what they call soft reeds, medium soft reeds, or hard reeds. Now, if you go over to clarinet land or saxophone land, they have reeds that have medium, soft, or they have numbers like 1 or 3 or whatever. And it can feel puzzling, like what choice should I make? Also, you may have had the experience where you buy two hard reeds or you buy two soft reeds and they feel very different from each other. And that can also be puzzling. So what does this mean, this soft and hard reed thing? And I think what the hardness means, because I've had that experience too. Lots of oboe players come into my life and I will try the reeds that they have and fix the reeds that they have for them. And they'll say, oh, well, this one's a soft one. And I will try to play it, and it feels so difficult to play. It's so hard to play. And then there'll be a hard reed in their case. So I got this hard one because the soft one didn't work. And I'll try that hard reed, and it'll be very easy to play. So, like it will feel very free blowing. So if being an oboe player, I would have described the one that was labeled hard as being soft, and the one that was labeled soft as being hard. But that's because I've had the opportunity to play it and to feel the resistance in each reed. So I just wanted to talk about what I think the mass production oboe reed companies are thinking when they put soft and hard on the reeds. I think what is happening, because all of those reeds are machine made, they are taking a simple measurement, whether it be of the tip or the middle or somewhere on the reed, and because of how thick the reed is, just from the standpoint of measurement, they're deciding that this is a hard reed because there's more cane on this reed, so it's harder. And this is a soft reed because there's less cane on this reed, so simply by measurement. And I think that that's how they decide what is soft and hard. Now, what they're not taking into consideration is that each piece of oboe reed cane, which is bamboo, which is organic material, just like a snowflake, each piece is different. And so each piece is going to vibrate differently. And what that means is that even a thicker reed that by measurement is thicker, it may vibrate easier than a reed that is thinner. So how the reed responds in terms of hardness or softness has to do with the quality and the kind of cane. And each individual piece of cane is different. So how it feels in the mouth and how it feels for you where you're playing is going to be different from reed to reed. It is, my father is an engineer, and when I started playing the oboe, he was just so puzzled, like, why can't they just streamline this process so that all the reeds are the same? And I remember the time I didn't have an answer for him, but I do now, which is, this is the art form of playing the oboe. And we as oboists, the reason why the thinness or the quality or how the reed vibrates, that particular quality is so important, is because the end of an oboe reed is as thin as a human hair. It is only a couple micrometers thick. It's so small. And so for that reason, any sort of variation in the piece of cane, it can be the straightness, it can be how thick and thin it is, it can be how close the vascular bundles are together. There's so many factors that go into that piece of organic material as to how it's going to vibrate when it gets wet. And because our reeds are so thin, there is great variation. Even if it's the same thickness, according to a machine, it may behave completely differently in your mouth. You will also likely find that your reeds change day to day in how they feel. And that is because of their thinness, and they're just being affected by the weather, the barometric pressure, the particular acoustics that you're playing in, the kind of oboe you're blowing into. So there's lots of different factors that lead to the feeling of how it feels when you blow it. So these mass-produced machine reeds they're not able to be, because they're being produced by machines and they're not being played by humans, they're not able to be modified so that there's a universal feeling when you blow into it. Like, this is how a hard reed is supposed to feel, this is how a soft reed is supposed to feel. I think if we measured them, we find they were very similar. But that doesn't help the oboe player at the other end, because it doesn't really matter how thick or thin the reed is, and goodness me, I know this as a reed maker, it matters how it feels when you blow into it. So I think that the mass-produced, machine-made reeds are trying to give a label to something that's not very helpful. Honestly, it's not very helpful at all. So I wouldn't I wouldn't look very closely at soft versus hard reeds in the machine reed world. If I could make one recommendation, it would be to buy handmade reeds. Reeds that have been played and tested by an oboe player. Now, if those reed makers have labels on their reeds, for example, this is a student reed, this is a professional reed, this has a lot of resistance, this has very little resistance, I would believe those labels because they are a reed maker and they know what a consistent resistance is on their particular reed. So if they have different labels describing the hardness or softness, I would believe those from a hand reed maker. Now, handmade reed makers can be found on the internet, and I would suggest, if you are on the oboe journey of trying to find better reeds, that you start looking around and find a reed maker that you can have a relationship with that will produce reeds for you. And that will help you a lot more than trying to decide between soft reeds and hard reeds. A discussion with that reed maker if you need to, maybe if you get a professional reed and maybe you need a student reed or vice versa, you do need to try some to kind of get a sense of where that reed maker is and what kind of reeds they produce and whether it's going to work for you. So it is a little bit of a relationship building and journey. But I would suggest going down it because it will mean that you get better reeds and then you will sound better, which is why we play the instrument, right? So I think one of the things I wanted to talk about was when we're talking about softness and hardness, what reed makers often are discussing is resistance. How much pushing of your air does this particular reed require in order to get going? And that's what I think hardness and softness is supposed to represent, but doesn't. But from your handmade reed makers, those I think you can say, I would like something that has very easy resistance, or I would like something that has a very difficult resistance, something that I need to blow against in order to get a sound. And that's very specific to you, what kind of sound you're wanting to produce, and your stage of development on the oboe. So let's get to that. Let's talk about that journey of resistance. So when I am working with beginners, those who are closer to the beginning part of their oboe path, their oboe journey rather, I suggest that they start with a reed with less resistance. When I'm working with a beginner, particularly if it's a person under the age of 15, I'm going to be using a less resistant reed for them. And what that means is there's less, that they're not going to have to blow as hard in order to get a beautiful sound. As an oboe player progresses in my program, they progress to more and more resistant reeds. I think of professional oboe players, I prefer an easy reed. I really don't want to work that hard. And so I probably skew to be on the easier resistance. I know that there are a lot of oboe players that I've played with and have loved how they play, and they're just so fun to play with, but their reeds require a lot more blowing than mine do. So I have a tendency to sit on the easier side of resistance. I really like a reed that's going to speak really easily. But even in my easy professional reeds, I feel too resistant for my beginner students. So I move them through this journey of starting on these easier reeds, and then we gradually build up to having a more resistant reed. What a more resistant reed might give you is a little bit more of a covered sound. It shouldn't affect your intonation, but it might just give you a little bit more of a covered sound, more of a perhaps a gentler attack, but will take some more breath support on your part to get going. So I hope that illuminates this dark secret world of hard reeds versus soft reeds. And I hope that that helps you on your oboe playing journey. I have another resource that I'd like to share with you. It's called High Note Mystery. Having a great and resistant reed for your high notes definitely will help. But there are other things you can do to help your high notes on the oboe, whether it be the second octave or the third octave. And I have this book. It's called High Note Mystery. That's available. All you have to do is click on this link, and it'll be sent to your email. And I hope that helps you. Let's all become the oboe players that everyone wants to play with. The oboe players we are meant to be. Play the oboe with joy and ease.